You're listening to the Just Japan podcast. Everything you want to know about Japan.
Hey there, folks, and welcome to episode number 159 of the Just Japan podcast, the weekly podcast that brings you everything Japan. That's right. My name is Kevin O'Shea, and I am the host of the Just Japan podcast. Each and every week, I bring you a new episode. My home base right here in Kobe, Japan. 159. Wow, holy smokes. It's been a long time. Recently, I've been going through some back episodes of the podcast and tweeting them out there to share with all the awesome people out there in the world. And hey, we're marching along. Great content coming out. A lot of good stuff planned in the future. So I want to thank each and every one of you out there listening right now for taking the time to stop by the podcast, to download it, to share it, to interact with me on my Facebook, on my Twitter, on my Instagram, and all of that stuff. I really appreciate it, and it's cool. So this is an episode where we're going to be talking about all the things that you should not do when you come to Japan. That's right. There's a lot of things you shouldn't do. Now, I know that a lot of travel books and YouTube videos and this and that talk about all the things you should do when you come to Japan. Well, myself and two great friends of the show, Mr. Andrew Higgins and Mr. Jim Mullins, aka Higgins in Japan on YouTube and Mully on YouTube and everywhere else. They come on the podcast this week to talk about all those things you should not do in Japan. So, by the way, you've already noticed things sound a bit different this week. That's right, I'm doing a mobile recording. I'm out walking. It's about 9:30 in the evening on a Saturday night. I'm here in Kobe, walking down a relatively quiet street, just chit-chatting away with each and every one of you. It's a great weekend in Kobe. It's the weekend of the Kobe Matsuri, which is going to be amazing. That happens on Sunday the 20th, tomorrow, the 21st, I should say. And that is a huge event, all downtown, Sanomiya, Motomachi, the whole area, Harborland. Hey, this evening, actually all day long, we could hear this loud music booming across the harbor to us over here on Port Island. And it was all coming from Medican Park, Medican Koen. They're having a huge concert there called Minato Marche. And this evening, we could even hear AKB48 performing. We could really hear it. It was amazing how that sound could travel a few kilometers with the wind blowing in the right direction. I recorded a little bit. You can't really hear that much, but I made a little video. I put it on the Facebook page. So go over to Just Japan, or facebook.com/JustJapanStuff, and you can catch that clip, that little video clip where you can hear AKB48 playing in the background. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Of course, the home of the Just Japan podcast is over at JustJapanStuff.com. JustJapanStuff.com. Go there, check it out. Follow me on Twitter at JLandKev, on Instagram at JLandKev. Check out my YouTube content over at Busan Kevin. All over the place, folks. All over the place. So yeah, I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time talking before and after the interview portion of the podcast, just again because I'm doing the mobile recording. I've just literally had no time to record this week, aside from the interview portion, in a quiet house. So basically had to get out of the house, and you can hear some background noises around here, but I think that makes it a little more interesting. So yeah, folks, of course, like I mentioned, actually I didn't mention this already, the Just Japan podcast, you can find it in all major podcatchers. We're all over the place. And I do, of course, want to mention that the Just Japan podcast is part of the Japan Podcasting Network. So go over to japanpodcastnetwork.com and check out some other great podcasts about Japan. You'll be happy. So without further ado, here I am, joined by Mr. Andrew Higgins and Jim Mullins, Higgins in Japan, and Mully, talking about things you should not be doing when you come to Japan, or if you're already here. Have a listen and enjoy. and enjoy. Why am I having trouble saying that word? Have a listen and enjoy. All right, guys, check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and germs, all of that stuff. Welcome to another episode of the Just Japan podcast. It is woohoo! Yay! It's kind of like the automatic. We know who the guests are when you hear that now. That noise, that sound.
Yeah, right.
It's episode number 159 of the podcast. We're going to be talking
159.
about 159. Wow. That's right.
Damn.
Amazing, huh? Getting up there.
You know, I just got a message on my podcast yesterday. Somebody says, "How's Dave? You guys haven't done a podcast since October."
Yeah, it's been a while, huh?
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, okay. So guys and gals out there listening, it's episode 159. We're talking about things you should not do in Japan. And for those of you who are fans of the show, you already know who the guests are. That's right. And if you don't know, we're going to tell you in a moment. So this
gonna.
I'm gonna.
You're never gonna forget.
Oh yeah. This evening, coming to you not live from Japan, but in Japan, we've got Jim Mullins, aka Mully. Woohoo!
Yay!
And Mr. Andrew Higgins of Higgins in Japan. Yay! Cool. Okay, guys. So, we're always getting new listeners. We're always getting new people. So we do this every episode. In a nutshell, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. Tell us, where you're from, where you are in Japan, and what the heck you do. So
Okay.
maybe alphabetically, we'll go with Andrew.
Andrew.
I was gonna say age before beauty, but
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Hey. So
all right. Well, then I guess.
So
I'll
who the
kick
heck are
things
you,
off.
Andrew?
Well, my name's Andrew Higgins in Japan. Originally from the States, the United States of America, Pennsylvania, give or take a couple other states, and then moved to Japan in 2012. I've lived in Ibaraki Prefecture, and currently I live in Tochigi Prefecture, which is just north of Tokyo.
That's right, you moved. That's right.
Yes, I did.
Cool. And Andrew is an international man of mystery. He does a lot of different things. I think he's dabbled in teaching, maybe some professional hitman, that kind of thing.
Mostly teaching.
Mostly.
Mostly teaching the stuff that I'm allowed to talk about. No, I teach at a couple elementary schools and a junior high, and I've taught business classes, and I've taught all different age groups. But yeah, mostly English teaching. So
nice. And some ballet.
And a little ballet on the side. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, you should see Andrew in his tutu.
Hey.
I'm actually wearing it right now. Nobody can see it, but
if only we could.
It's pretty comfortable.
It's something you can't unsee.
It's true.
Okay, so Jim, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yay! My name. I'm sorry.
Yay!
I'm on the tail end of a cold here.
Okay.
My name is Mully. I'm from the United States myself, and I've been living in Japan since 1991.
Mm-hmm.
So although my citizenship is USA, I consider myself pretty much a full-time resident of Japan.
Well, you very much so are. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't plan on going back.
And you spent more of your life in Japan than out of Japan, right?
Yeah. I came over here. I was 23. I'm 49 now. So yeah,
math checks out.
Than half my life. My entire adult life's been here.
It's difficult math, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
married to a Japanese national, and we've got a little dog. And I got my YouTube channel, which is Warmouth Strat Mully. Well, everything's at mullysplace.com.
Nice. And by the way, I'll give a plug here. If you do a search for Andrew, just type in Higgins in Japan on YouTube, and there he is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this evening I asked you guys to join the podcast to talk about a certain topic, to give some information to people out there who are, thinking of traveling to Japan, want to travel to Japan, want to come here to live, all about the things you should not do when you come to Japan. And this was inspired. I'm going to kick it off. This inspired me. What inspired me to do this episode of the podcast There's actually something I made a blog post about last night.
Mm.
You know, in the last year or two, the tourism industry, tourism in Japan has been just exploding. The
Uh-huh.
numbers of visitors in Japan, and at least where I live here in Kobe, which is a major tourist hub, it's just tangible. You see it. Like there are so many more people, like tour groups and visitors.
Mm.
You know, mostly from different Asian countries, but also I see a lot more people traveling here from Europe, from other, you know, Western countries. And
Uh,
one thing I've noticed, you know, for example, I go for walks every night normally after my two kids go to bed. And there's a 7-Eleven not far from my house, which is directly across from a very big hotel, which has a lot
uh,
of travelers, a lot of tour groups go there, stay there. And a lot of them are from other countries here in Asia. And what I notice is that when you go into the 7-Eleven at night, it is packed to the rafters with people, and none of them are speaking Japanese. And often a lot of them are just like pulling ice creams like out of the cooler and just opening them up and eating them, and like taking a beer out of the cooler and just cracking it and drinking it. And then their intention is to then, you know, walk up to the cashier. They're not shoplifting or anything, but then pay for it once they've opened it and been consuming it. Um,
mm.
I've even noticed in my local supermarket lately, a number of like European travelers. I'm not sure where they're from, which countries, who, you know, I saw a guy the other day like grab a beer out of like the kind of alcohol section and crack it open, and he was drinking the beer while walking around shopping and filling his cart with other things. And I was just like,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, wow. And I saw another group of people. I'm not sure exactly where they're from. Another group of people who were like opening bags of like a bag of potato chips and sharing them while they walked around pushing shopping carts. And I thought
Yeah.
that's definitely not cool in Japan. Like
Yeah.
that is
Uh,
not something you would do. And my wife, I pointed to my wife, and my wife, I'm like, look at that, check that out, because I noticed it, and my wife was horrified.
uh,
And by the way, my wife is Japanese, folks, for those of you who may not know. So you know, there's actually a picture that will be in the show notes for this episode at justjapanstuff.com, that I took last night at that local 7-Eleven. And it's on the blog post I wrote last night at Just Japan Stuff called How to Travel in Japan, No Eating or Drinking. And it's a picture of that sign saying, please, no eating or drinking in the store.
mm.
Um, so yeah, so I wanted to kick off the episode with that big no-no. In your experience, guys, do Japanese people, when they're shopping, open food products and consume them in the shop before paying for them?
Oh
I've
my
never seen it.
gosh, no, I've never seen I've never even seen anybody do the like, you know how when you're going to buy grapes and you're like, I want to make sure these grapes are good, so I'm going to sample one of them. I've never I've done that in America, but I
Yeah.
would never dream of doing that. Mostly because grapes are like, you know, a
Five,
1,000 yen
one for one
for a handful. Yeah.
yeah, for one grape, they're 1,000 in each. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen anybody in like, you know, just walking around shopping and eating.
Yeah, I've never seen that either.
No,
Yeah. So
no, me neither.
even back home, that's something that's, I mean, I saw occasionally, but definitely not common.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard of people like sampling the grapes, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
But I've seen occasionally a few people who would like maybe like open a can of or eat a snack or open potato chips, and as they get to the checkout, they're like, can you scan this? You know, I already, you know, but that's
I feel
very
like that's I feel like I might have done that in the States at one point.
But I thought that was
That seems like something I would have done at a Walmart when I was like 16, 17 years old and thought I was cool.
yeah.
You know, one of those like, I'm just going to eat these chips and then pay for the empty bag at the counter. Like, that just seems like something I would have done as like a dumb
Yeah, like that's
16-year-old.
like I think I've seen it a few times, but even in Canada, I thought that was weird. Like even at that, I can
Yeah.
like I have memories like thinking, oh, that's not normal.
Yeah,
I would imagine you could probably get away with it back in the States. Whereas here, I think if you walked up with an empty bag of chips, here, I can pay for this. I wonder what their reaction would be. I'd like to see that actually.
I'm just thinking they would not understand that you had eaten them, and they probably would just try
Well,
to throw the bag away.
Yeah, like,
Right,
why
right,
are you
right,
trying
right.
to pay for garbage? Why are you bringing
Yeah.
garbage in here? Yeah. So definitely, folks, we're not saying that like this is a way that you could. This is a strategy for getting free things in Japan.
No.
Yeah,
But
no.
yeah, my suggestion for those out there who are traveling to Japan, don't do that. Just wait
Yeah,
till
definitely not.
wait till you pay for food and drinks in a supermarket before you consume them. And I mean, if and there's also the possibility. Even my wife said this. If you're walking around a shop and you're eating something, people might think you're shoplifting or it's something you
Yeah.
stole.
Yeah.
There's a distinct possibility of that.
Mm.
Okay, so guys, I asked both of you to think about some things that you shouldn't do in Japan, and I'm sure you both have lots.
Okay, can I go?
Okay, Jim, you can go
Yeah, go
first.
for it.
Go for it.
Okay. One thing you don't do is you don't tip.
Mm.
You don't tip. Don't tip. Yeah,
Nope.
unless you see a tip jar that specifically asking for tips, don't tip. And it's not like you're going to get beat up or anything, but when I first came over here, we went to an Italian restaurant, had dinner, blah, blah, blah. And before we left, everybody had gotten up and walked away from the table. And I took like 1,000 yen or something. I left it on the table and I walked out. And like 15 seconds later, this waitress comes running down the street with my money, giving it back to me.
You forgot this on the table, sir.
Yeah. Tipping's not really a thing here. Now, with a taxi driver, if you just have like, 200-300 yen change, you might be able to say, hey, just keep the change, right? But for the most part, no, you don't tip.
It's definitely not a
Yeah.
tipping culture, right? So it's
Yeah,
just,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get licked down on if you don't. Is that if you do, don't? If you do, don't.
if you don't tip, you won't be looked down upon if you
Right.
don't tip. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
Because people
you
just
won't get looked down if you don't.
they might look down at your English, but yeah, people certainly they don't tip. You don't tip in restaurants when you are at a bar
Yeah.
when you're buying
I had-
drinks.
I had a friend that actually would try to tip the delivery guy when he would bring like I don't even know if it was like pizza or Chinese food, whatever it was. And I had to tell him, I was like, dude, stop trying to tip him. Like the delivery guy was very clearly confused as to like why he would like give him extra money. I'm like, he's getting paid for his job. Like, don't worry about that. Like, he doesn't understand why you're still trying to give him more money than what you owe him. It's like, you got to stop trying to tip people here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, in some ways, if you're coming from, North America or Europe or whatnot, it does actually make things easier while you're traveling here if you know that not to tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've actually forgotten to tip when I'm back in the States.
Ooh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'd
Same
get a
here.
haircut, pay for the haircut, and leave. And then as I'm getting in my car, like, oh crap, I forgot to tip, and like run back in and like,
Yeah, you
have
look
this-
over and they're pointing out the window at you, giving you the finger.
yeah, yeah, they're like, never cut his hair again. But yeah, like I've
We should've
definitely gone
shaved
back. Yeah,
Or next time, cut it real good.
yeah,
Mohawk.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've forgotten to tip when I'm back home, and then I've also kind of realized, Jesus, man, look how much money we're spending just on tips.
Yeah. I suppose, especially when you've been living abroad for a long time in a country like Japan, you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I really do spend a ton of money on these tips. Yeah.
yeah. And the other thing is that like the people working in the restaurants or taxi drivers or whatever, they're getting paid enough, or they're getting paid.
They're not getting paid that minimum wage that you would.
Right. They're not dependent on you giving them a tip either. So, like sometimes when you go to restaurants in the States, the waiter or waitress might not be making minimum wage, and they're kind of dependent on your tip to kind of break even or whatever they're trying to aim for. But like, yeah, that's not the issue here.
No. I mean, I worked in the service industry in Canada. I worked as a server when I was in my early 20s, and definitely I made substantially more in my tips than I did in my salary. My salary was even something, we get a paycheck every week or 2 weeks, but sometimes it might be a month before I'd collect all my paychecks from the restaurant, just because of the tips at the end of the night was definitely much more than my salary, which would have been probably less than $5 an hour at the time.
Hey guys, since I'm limited on time tonight,
Oh yes,
do you mind if I give one more in case I have to jump out of here?
sure.
Okay,
Go for
sorry,
it.
Higgy. Is that okay?
Hey, do what you gotta do, man.
To the listeners, I've got a lesson here like pretty soon, so I'm gonna have to start getting ready here pretty soon. But anyway,
Yeah.
this is probably one that nobody ever really says this, but don't be late for the train.
Why is
Yeah.
that?
Trains run on time here. So
Yes.
don't think you're going to show up 30 seconds late and make the train. You won't. It'll be gone.
Yeah.
30 seconds
Get
ago.
here early.
And depending on where you're at and where you need to get to, that can be a big problem. If
Yeah.
you're in someplace in Tokyo and you're just hanging out and you're not really need to be on time, and you're on the Yamato line, it's going to come every like 3 minutes or,
Or
something.
2 minutes,
So it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
that big.
exactly. Or if you're in Osaka,
Yes.
the Osaka Loop line, that's going to come every couple of
Yeah.
minutes, so you don't really have to worry. Yeah.
But if you've got someplace to be, you be there for the train when it says the time that the train, because that's when the train leaves. And they're not waiting for you.
Nope.
Yeah. No, definitely,
Not
definitely.
at all.
I was coming back from Christmas vacation, and my train left like 2 minutes. Like got into the station, and the next train that I had to get on left 2 minutes, like 2 minutes different times. And I had a suitcase and a carry-on, and they weren't waiting for me. Like I had to run up around the corner and down the set of stairs, and they were just pulling away as I got down to the stairs. So, yeah, they're not going to wait for you.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I mean, it's not always punctual, depending on where you lived. If weather conditions or have something to do with
Right.
it. Where I live here in Kobe, for example, I used to work in a place called Akashi, which is outside of the city, but all the railroad tracks run right along the ocean. And if it's a windy day or there's like heavy rain, then definitely we'd have delays. But normally, especially in the big cities, it's tick-tock on time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew. So now we know Jim might have to. You guys know that Jim might have to step out at any time. We're ready for that. But can you throw one at us, Mr. Higgins, so we can banter about?
Yeah. Well, kind of sticking with the train theme. There's a lot of things that are kind of unwritten rules that you just kind of do when you're on the train. One of them is like not talking very loud or talking at all on the train.
Yeah.
You notice that like, and something that somebody pointed out to me was that like a lot of people that are riding the train, especially in the morning, that they're going to work. This is they don't have a car, they don't have a bike, or they're too far to bike. Like this is they're going to work. Like this is not just, hey, we're hanging out because we want to ride the train. There's people that are either trying to get work done or trying to like get in the mood of like, I'm going to be at work for the next 8 hours with a bunch of people I don't like. So the last thing that they want to do is hear you and your friends like being real loud on the train.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like if you were just sitting in the back seat of the car with somebody on their way to work, like yelling and listening to music really loud. It'd be a little bit annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. If you're in the train, keep it at I mean, you don't have to act like you're like in a library, but yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to. You wouldn't want to be speaking at the volume that we're speaking.
No.
Unless
Yeah.
unless it's Friday night and people are drunk and.
I was gonna say unless it's Friday night last train, then all rules go out the window.
Yeah, but yeah,
you got a bunch of drunk salarymen, but
keep it decent. Nobody really cares to hear what you're talking about.
But you know what? So no, now that actually leads me into something I wanted to mention about loud drinking on trains. Actually, because I know that of course we all see it when you ride the train. You finish work at the end of the day. It's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. You will. It's common to see a salaryman sitting down having a chew high, having a beer, and some peanuts or something as they go home from work to kind of unwind. But normally at that time, so as you, one thing if you guys don't know out there listening, it is legal to drink in public, in a restrained fashion. So you will see people on the trains having a beer or having this. Not everybody. Occasionally you will see people doing it, but usually kind of like salarymen at the end of the day, and I've been known to do that as well. But that does not permit you to get drunk and party on a train. Because
Yeah.
in the past, it doesn't happen anymore. But once upon a time, there was something called the Yamanote train, the Yamanote Halloween party, and there was also here in Osaka the Osaka Loop Line Halloween party, and both were basically the police, like online people from like Nichan and other things put a kibosh to that. But basically, you get tons of foreigners who get on the train on a Friday evening or Halloween night and get hammered drunk and basically party on the train while normal regular Japanese people were commuting home from work. And I've seen videos of it on YouTube, and I've actually almost been like embarrassed watching the videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get you.
Because we'll probably talk about this at some point. I don't know, but like it goes back to the idea that like you're representing your country while you're here, and I know for a lot of people that sounds like it sounds unfair, or it sounds like they shouldn't be viewed like that. But like unfortunately, in Japan, like a lot of times people will look at you as like, until they get to know you, they'll look at you as what your country stereotypically is. If you're from America, you're probably loud and obnoxious, and so if they see you acting loud and obnoxious on the train, like that's what they're going to just continue to assume.
Right.
And it's probably unfair to have to deal with that, but like until people kind of get to know you and realize that maybe you're different from that and you can change their perspective, maybe don't act loud and obnoxious on the train.
Well, and something about what you're saying there, Andrew, is we have, as you guys know, we have a couple sayings in English that weren't created here in Japan. Like, for example, first impressions are lasting impressions. That wasn't invented for Japanese people. I mean, that rule goes that applies in the States.
Yeah.
And then the other one, one bad apple spoils the bunch. That's nothing. That wasn't created for over here either. So.
But it's but it's such a true thing, right? Like, so if maybe you're not from a big city like Tokyo or Nagoya or Osaka, and you're from a little country mouse from a small town in Japan, and you're heading to the big city, and you're on a train in the big city for maybe one of the first times ever, or you're a kid who's coming from a small rural school, and you're on your big school trip in high school or junior high school, and you see a bunch of foreigners get onto a train drunk and loud, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, wow. Yeah. So is that what foreigners are like? Is that what? Oh, yeah. They're speaking English. So if it's English, they must be American. Oh,
yeah.
Is this what Americans
do? So you Canadians
do?
Are safe.
Yeah. Is this what Americans do? But these are things that some people might think.
But to be fair with that, because I know a lot of people get the hate thing going, like, oh, Japanese people, that's the way they think. They hate foreigners, blah, blah, blah. I think people from Tokyo would probably see people like from where I'm at in Shizuoka, other Japanese people, and see some of the habits that they have, and they would automatically go, oh, Shizuoka people act like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
There's also the regional thing within Japan, absolutely, right?
Oh, sure.
Well, and then you got those people down in Kobe that just ride on the wrong side of the escalator. So
yeah, true. All of us stand on the Kansai, right? We stand on when you're on the escalator. You stand on the right. You walk up the left.
And no, that's not how you do it.
And completely. It's so funny. Yes, and then you confuse anyone in the Kanto from the Kanto. You always know when people who are going to Kobe Airport at my local train station because they stand on the other side. And they're all really confused. There you go, folks. Little cultural difference. If you live in the Kanto region of Japan, the standing side of the escalator is the left side. The walking is the right. In Kansai, it's the opposite. You stand on the right side. You walk up the left side. And then and all the Japanese people walk into each other, bump into each other, get really confused, and curse each other for being from different parts of the country. Okay, well, hey. So
I get that when I drive in Tokyo, people see my license plate and automatically, oh, Shizuoka driver.
Ah, yes. Especially gym driver. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I want to throw out another thing that's not about alcohol and stuff. One thing I thought about, one thing you should never do in Japan, you should not do when you're here, if you're working here in Japan, and I know this from experience of past coworkers, but complaining about work at work.
Yeah.
What do you think about that,
Definitely
guys?
a no.
Complaining
Yeah.
about your job while you're at your job loudly.
Yeah.
Yes, save that for the Enkai.
So,
Yeah, and I would like to add to that
Mhm.
on that one, because I've been working in a Japanese school for 15 years.
Yep.
No matter how close you are to your Japanese counterparts,
Mhm.
don't think that you can tell them your dirty little secrets, and it's probably best have a limit on what you tell people.
Mm.
Keep a filter going.
Well, so I also thought with that, and this is probably going to blend into what you're saying. I wrote down some notes I jotted down. I wrote complaining about work at work, and then complaining about Japan or Japanese culture at work.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
Yeah, and anything that you don't want getting back to the boss, don't say it.
Hmm.
You know, that's just a rule that I've come to learn over the years. Yeah.
Because I've definitely worked with people over the years who,
I thought we were friends.
yeah, well, people who will complain a lot about the job in the teacher's room. They'll complain, or in the hallway where ears are listening, or when you meet people. I've met foreigners who complain about Japan in the teacher's room. So I've always worked at international schools here in Japan, but we've had a mix of where I work, the school I work. We have a mix of Japanese and non-Japanese teachers. So we got a lot of foreigners, but we do have a lot of Japanese as well. And the Japanese are working at their computers quietly. And then you have people, I've worked with people who are like, why the heck do Japanese people do this? Why does this happen in Japan? I don't understand. Back home, we do this, and it's so much better.
Oh gosh.
That's my pet peeve. In America, we do it like this.
Yeah, or in Canada, or in Australia, we do it like this, and it's so much better. And you'll have
go back there.
People are just ranting like that. Exactly. Move back there.
If it's better, if it's so much better, then just there's planes leaving Narita every day. So.
Yeah, if it's so much better.
Yeah, there's one leaving Kansai Airport right now. Get on it.
And I don't want that to sound like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, like everything's perfect here.
Oh no,
no. But when you move into a different culture, you got to have a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, definitely.
There's some stuff you just got to put up with, and that's part of being a mature adult.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And what Kevin was talking about, saying stuff in the teacher's room or in the hallway, definitely do not say negative things about Japan in class to your students.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh my God, have a little bit of professionalism in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
even in the teacher's room, have professionalism. But yeah, Andrew, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, kind of find that barrier between like things that you're gonna talk about at work and things that you're gonna keep in, maybe with your foreign friends or friends that you can talk about work with. Like, yeah, like try to separate. Even like when I was working for a dispatch company, just trying to keep that stuff that was the issues that I was having, keeping that separate from class, keeping that separate from the teacher's office. Like, they don't need to know about the stuff that's going on with my company. They don't need to know that stuff. Like, I'm there to teach English. Yeah, and that's the other thing. They don't have anything to do with it. They can't control it. So it's like, I'm there to teach English, so I'm going to teach English. If I need to go and get a drink after work, I'll do that. But, the separation of things that you talk about at work.
Separation of church and state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but who wants to hear it? Like, I mean, I can think of things happening in the past, and my Japanese colleagues are sitting there quietly working while some foreign teacher is bitching and complaining about Japan or the Japanese politics or the way Japanese do something, and they're taking everything in. They understand. They're listening and they're getting it. And then all of a sudden, it's nomikai season. It's end of year drinking season, and me, Kevin,
you're not invited.
Kevin gets invited because I'm not saying that stuff, and all of a sudden that person doesn't get invited to the party, and then they start bitching, complaining because why wasn't I invited to the party? Well,
racist.
Nobody
Racist.
wants to be around you.
It's because your Japanese colleagues were listening to you all year complaining about their country, their culture, and talking about why it isn't good.
And they
And
don't want to sit through a nomikai listening to
they don't
you.
want to sit beside you drunk, even probably ranting about it more. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So don't.
And that's not even to say that you have to kiss Japan's ass.
Yeah,
No,
You
no,
know,
it's
exactly.
not.
Yeah,
Just leave it at home.
yeah, let it go. Yeah.
If you're in my case an English teacher, you're there to teach English, not complain about politics,
Exactly.
or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a coworker that will, speak about, what's going on in America politically at the moment. And I'm like, I may not be on the most popular side, but this is not a place to discuss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the place for it. This is not the place. This is not the time.
Yep.
Keep
Exactly.
your stuff out of the school.
Oh yeah.
It's got nothing to do here. Just teach your lessons and
Teach
be
your
done with
lessons. You talk about education. Talk about dealing with students. Talk about behavioral issues with students. Talk about strategies for teaching students. Strategies for dealing with students who have issues. Talk about how you can collaborate with other teachers to make things better. But yeah,
Yeah, and
even,
just figure out a way to dodge it if anybody asks you.
I would even say, man, like that's just a good rule of thumb. If you're back home, if you're a teacher in America or a teacher in Canada, and you're in the teacher's room in Canada, leave the politics aside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know, those are things
politics and religion get nothing done.
you're just gonna make non friends. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of cross cultural.
Yeah,
Especially, I mean, again, I think Japanese culture.
I think
Ja-
I
Ja-
think we've moved into life. I think we've moved into three old men telling young people how to live life.
True enough, eh?
That's what the comments are going to be like. You guys sound like a bunch of old men that don't have any fun.
No, we were your age and having fun and screwed up enough that put us in this
Yeah.
frame of mind.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's hop over before you have to go, Jim, which is probably really
Yeah, I
soon.
got about 5 more minutes.
Okay. Obviously there's the basic things like shoes.
Uh-huh.
In Japan we have indoor and outdoor shoes. So
Mhm.
often when you walk into some restaurants or different places, you will have to take off your shoes and put on a pair of slippers or indoor shoes. So
Yeah, so make sure you don't have make sure, if you're going out, make sure you don't have holes in your socks.
yeah, exactly.
Unless you don't care.
Oh, true. I guess
Yeah.
I suppose is that. Yeah. So Jim, did you have any other small ones on your list before you leave?
No, go ahead, guys. Go ahead. I threw 2 of them in there. You guys go ahead.
Okay,
Andrew?
Andrew.
I had a couple more. I had one talking about tattoos.
Okay, I've got
'Cause I
tattoos.
know-
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, tattoos are evil. End of podcast.
No. I can no. What I mean is, I can give you a perspective of somebody that's got tattoos, and
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I probably agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, the current situation in Japan is that tattoos are not usually publicly acceptable.
Right.
I think that it's slowly changing, and you see with the younger generation of Japanese people, you see it obviously with musicians and rock stars and stuff. They all have tattoos. So
Yeah, because traditionally tattoos are equated with like gangsterism and the yakuza and stuff. But now you see a lot of people who are definitely not involved in crime and whatnot have tattoos.
Yeah.
It's becoming more
But
kind of a hip thing.
yeah, but
Now I
you
feel
still have
old by saying
places. You still have places that are not gonna allow you in
Yes.
if you've got a tattoo that's visible. Especially stuff like onsens. Like I had friends that were actually just here visiting from the States, and they contacted me, oh gosh, last year sometime, and said, hey, we're gonna stay at this resort, this onsen place up in Nikko. They were like, can you contact them and see what their tattoo policy is, because they both have a lot of tattoos. And so I contacted the hotel, and they said, we have a public onsen and we have a family onsen that you can reserve, and we think that it was funny how they said it, that they would be more comfortable in the family onsen.
Yeah.
Which was just their nice way of saying,
Yeah, we don't want that. Yeah.
we don't want tattoos in the public onsen, which that's that's their decision. But yeah, it's definitely still a bit of a an issue
Yeah, yeah.
in public.
I suppose
It's still taboo.
do your legwork before you come here if you want to go to an onsen.
Yeah.
A lot will even have. I was at an onsen during the Christmas holiday with my family. I don't have any tattoos, but there were signs, like very visible signs at the onsen entrances in the resort, in English too, that said no tattoos.
Hmm.
So if you have tattoos, you can't go in. And I know, for those out there, and I know so many of you do have tattoos. That's just at the moment the way things are with in Japan.
Right.
And,
Well, since I'm cooler than both of you, I have tattoos.
exactly. Tattoo guy, talk to us.
So I can give you a tattooed guy. I can give you a tattooed guy's perspective on this. I think, and this goes back to what we said before. You got to be flexible. If you've got tattoos, you should understand that that's the way the culture is here, and you shouldn't be surprised if something happens where they don't want to let you in because of your tattoos, or if they ask you to cover them up. It's not going to benefit you one bit to get angry about it, because it's not going to help anything. And it'll actually make it worse. To give you an example of how strict it is here, there was a visiting, what do you call them, the foreign ambassador from New Zealand that was here, part of the Maori tribe. And she had tattoos on her face, and they wouldn't let her into an onsen. It was a big stink here at that time. Myself, I joined a sports gym one time, a fitness club, and as we were signing the papers, I asked them, what are your rules about tattoos? And they said, well, we're not going to keep you out because you have them, but we would like for you to cover them up when you're in the gym. And that includes in the locker room. So I actually had to sign a paper that said I'm not involved in organized crime. I don't do this, I don't do that, and that I'll follow the rules. And if anybody was to see my tattoos, they could take away my membership, no questions asked, no argument. So what I was fine with that until I went into the locker room. And when I went in the locker room, I realized there was no place separated for you to change, like the curtained off area.
Just a big open room, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a big open room, and everybody walking around naked. But I didn't notice that until I got out of the swimming pool. And I came back downstairs. Now, obviously, I'm in the swimming pool. I've got a leg supporter on covering the tattoo on my leg. I'm wearing a shirt to cover the tattoos on my back. And I get down to the locker room, and I walk in. I'm thinking, wait a minute, where am I going to change? And I'm standing there just dripping all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'll run to the bathroom and change in the stall. So I went to the bathroom. I got in the stall, and I'm dripping water all over the floor. And I look down, and the floor is this urine infested, stinky water mess that I don't want to take my slippers off and stand in it. So I was using a towel that was borrowed from the club. So I squared it up, and I folded it up into a square and dropped it on the floor. And then I stood on that, took my clothes off, wrung them out in the toilet, blah, blah, blah. But then I didn't have a towel to dry off. So I had to sit there for like 15 minutes air drying. And I finally went out and I complained to him. I said, look, I understand your rules, but if you're going to have this rule, you should have a place where people with tattoos can change. That was my only complaint.
So you never dried off.
And I never went swimming after that.
Okay, you never dried off that urine soaked towel. Oh, wow. Eek. Jim, if you got to duck out, please do so.
Yep, this is it.
We're cool.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Another gym that I belong to.
Yeah.
I'd been going there for 5 years. Shorts, tattoos on my leg. They never said anything. And then one day I walked in, and I'm over there changing my shoes, and they came over and told me I had to cover my tattoo. I'm like, I've been coming here for 5 years. Isn't there like no grandfather clause or anything? So, if you've got tattoos, just be prepared. Try not to get mad because you've been warned.
Different culture, right?
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I do have a lesson in 5 minutes.
All right, well, take care.
So,
go to mullysplace.com. Mullysplace.com, folks.
Thank you for having me on tonight.
Great to have you again.
Andrew, always great to talk to you. And Kevin, when do you leave?
The first week of August.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
right,
I'm trying to get him to do a live podcast recording.
I'll probably be on one more time before then.
I think so.
Okay. All right. Well,
at
thanks for
least
having
one
me in
more.
tonight, guys, and
Yep.
all the listeners out there. You can find anything you want at www.mulliesplace.com.
Yay! See you later, Jim.
All right. Don't let
See
the
you,
meat
Jim.
See ya.
All right. Okay, well, Jim is gone.
Oh, we could talk about him finally.
Thank God we can finally gossip about that guy. So Jim has left the Skype conversation, folks. So one thing I wanted to talk about, Andrew, not as heavy as tattoos and things, but it's kind of a traditional thing in Japan, and I know times are changing, and people when they come here to visit or travel might think, wait a second, this doesn't quite jive, but it's got to do with eating and drinking while you're walking around.
Oh yeah.
Now, so where I'm thinking with this, now, traditionally in Japan, when you eat, it is something you do when you're stationary. When you're sitting, and traditionally when you're sitting, drinking is the same. Now, you will go to somewhere like Tokyo or Kobe or Osaka, and you'll see lots of Japanese people, adults, walking around eating and drinking. But they tend to be of a younger generation. Japanese people who are maybe in their 20s and their 30s, even 40s. But you probably won't see older people doing it. So, so this is something that I've encountered a few times. I know I taught kindergarten for several years, and the Japanese staff at my school would always very strict with the students about you do not walk and eat, you do not stand and eat. When you eat, you are sitting down. Even if you're on like a field trip, if you're going to have a drink of tea or water, you kind of squat down low and drink it. So it's kind of an old-fashioned do's and don't. But I just wanted to share this. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, it wasn't until I think my second trip to Japan that I really like kind of asked about that, and because I noticed a friend of mine, we were actually down in Ashia, and we walked to the station, and there was like a bread shop there, and we were like, oh wow, this looks really good. Let's grab a couple things from here and grab something to drink, and we're walking down the sidewalk, just eating our bread and drinking our coffee or whatever we were doing, and people were just like really like giving us weird looks, and I was like, are they just like doing this because we're foreigners, or like what's the deal? And I mentioned something to somebody when I got back to the school, and they were like, no, they were probably looking at you because you're walking around eating. Like, you should have like sat down somewhere and just not been walking around and eating.
Yeah, exactly. So traditionally, like it's considered a very big faux pas to walk around, to walk and to eat at the same time, or to walk and drink at the same time. Yeah.
Like in certain things, like you got a coffee or a Starbucks or whatever, and that's I see that all the time. People walking around and
I think that's where
but I think that's
it's a shift now. It's changing.
Yeah,
even in the 9 years I've been in Japan, it's been changing quite a bit. So I'm throwing this one out to you guys listening. It's not a big deal, not a big thing to really listen to worry about. But again, if you're on the train and you've gotten some takeout McDonald's, probably don't whip out your hamburgers and your fries and start eating on the train.
I was on the train once, and this lady across from me had this like big styrofoam container full of some like smelly something. I don't know what she was eating, but she just popped that thing open and just started eating on the train. And I was like,
non-Japanese person.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
It's like, don't.
Yeah,
like I was like, I need to get up and move, like,
because I don't
want to be near you.
Because I'm being very So exactly. So especially if you're on a train or something, definitely if you're on a train, occasionally early in the morning on my local train, there's very few people on it. I've seen even Japanese people like eating kind of quietly and discreetly eating a piece of bread or
and also
an
don't
onigiri.
Don't go by what like high school students do, because I see high school students eat on the train all the time. Like, they've got their McDonald's bag and they're just sitting there eating their hamburger on the train. Like,
but they're high school students. They're
Yeah,
intentionally breaking the social norms because they're
yeah,
teenagers and that's their
they think it's
job.
cool.
That's their duty. And I did that. We all did that when we were in high school, no matter what country we're from.
Yeah,
But traditionally on a train, try not to eat something on a train. It's okay to drink something, kind of carefully, or to eat something small carefully. But to sit there and have a meal, definitely no. Um,
yeah. I mean, usually the rule of thumb that I always go by, if I'm ever like, oh, is this okay? Is you just kind of look around the room, or do you see other people doing it?
yeah,
Um, not unless they're high school students. Like, don't. But
exactly.
look around the room and see, like, is anybody else doing this? Okay, then I should be okay. And honestly, like a lot of these things, I think will get overlooked, just for the fact that like people will go, oh well, you're a foreigner, you don't understand maybe some of the like smaller cultural things that I think a lot of people will be understanding in that way.
Hmm.
And especially if you're not being obnoxious about it, if you're not being, you're not swinging from the handlebars on the train, that
I've
kind of thing.
I've seen
If
people
if
do
you're,
that.
gosh, I've gotten up and moved.
I've seen people
I've
do
been
that
around.
at night, and I've
I,
definitely I've gotten up and left the train car and gone to a
I
different
like
car.
I've been with quote unquote friends, and they've done that, and I've gotten up and moved. Like I don't want to. Don't do that. It's not time to do chin ups on the train. Like
Because no one else is.
no one else is doing it. But yeah, I mean, again, the old guy yelling at people on the train not to do stuff. But yeah, just
But you will
I think
you literally, if you will do stuff like that, you will literally have an old guy yelling at you on the train, and
yeah,
he'll
or
be a Japanese
an old
guy, or a
yeah,
middle-aged Japanese
old
guy yelling at
grandmama.
you, or a
Yeah,
grandma yelling at you, which I've seen happen.
yeah, because
Yeah.
they don't care. They'll yell at you.
Hey, foreigner, stop doing that bad stuff. We don't do that here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, I think a lot of things people will just go, well, you're a tourist or you don't understand, and then it's not like they're like looking down on you for that. I think that they actually understand. Hey, you're not from here. You don't know. Things are different in your country. But I think that if you're willing to be flexible and willing to go, oh, sorry, yeah, I think that goes a long way instead of just going, "Oh, Japan, they hate me." That's like that
But
doesn't help
yeah,
anybody.
and I think yeah, exactly. It just makes you look like a hole, and people will want to be around you. But I mean, I think at
Yeah.
the same time, if you take the time to learn those small social rules, and you find yourself in a situation where you're sitting down with a Japanese person, having that discussion or a discussion about social rules, and you're talking about it, I think you would really impress a lot of Japanese people, especially if you're very new to Japan or you're traveling, and you know that, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this or I should do this. I think that would really impress Japanese people that you took the time to learn about their culture
Yeah.
and to learn how they should or should not behave. That's yeah, I think you get some props. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that people are going to be. I think they'll be. It depends on your attitude. It depends on how you approach them approaching you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, you're in a different culture. It's very different from the culture you're probably from. In every culture we have different rules, norms, expectations, and it's always good to do a little bit of homework before you go to that new culture and figure out how you should or should not behave. I think that's
Yeah, and I thought it was really cool that my friends, kind of reached out to me and said like, hey, like, what are the rules about this? I've heard things, but like, we just wanted to make sure. Like, I thought that was really cool. They weren't just like, hey, we're coming to Japan for 2 weeks to just roam around and we're gonna tear things up and just do whatever and then leave. Like they were, not that I thought that they would do that anyways, but they were
yeah.
very like upfront and respectful and just like, hey, we're coming. We want to make sure like things are cool. Like we don't want to offend anybody. We want to have a good time. We want the people around us to have a good time, and I think that's kind of
Very,
what we've been trying to talk about.
Yeah, having a good attitude and being open minded
Yeah,
and realizing that you are in a different culture and there are different expectations and sometimes we have to behave in different ways and we have to adjust to the way we behaved in America or Canada or Australia, wherever we're from,
right.
in order to kind of make it a more enjoyable experience, right? Because you want the Japanese people around you to feel comfortable with you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and like I said earlier, it gives, maybe it opens, because honestly, like, a lot of Japanese people have not interacted with foreigners,
Absolutely.
or have not really been around foreigners in a huge capacity. Now, if you're in Tokyo, like, they see foreigners all the time, you're not special, But you live out out in the countryside, and you run into people that have never interacted with foreigners
You might be
before,
the
and
first
so
one, yeah.
yeah, honestly, you could be, and I've ran into people like that before, where, oh, I've never met a foreigner before, or I've never met anyone from America before, and they're very curious, and they want to know, and like, it's your opportunity to just kind of break any stereotype that they might have of Americans or wherever you're from.
Yeah.
So
So drunk swinging from the handles of a train, probably not the best first impression.
yeah, probably not.
Maybe not. Andrew, I don't want to keep you any later. It's past 10 in the evening, good sir, and we're
Oh,
busy people. We're both international men of mystery. We
yes,
have
I've
things.
got assassinations or things to do.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to go to a casino right now and put on my dinner jacket and do a bit of gambling.
Nice.
Yeah, because that's how we roll in Kobe. That's how we roll the Just Japan podcast. It's Baccarat coming up soon, just like James Bond without the killings.
Yes.
Churlishly. The worst Sean Connery impression ever. So, hey, where can people find all your stuff online on social media if they want to connect with Mr. Andrew Higgins in Japan?
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, like I said, feel free. Like, my friends reached out to me and sent me a message. Like, if you go to facebook.com/Higgins in Japan, you can send me a message there. I try to respond to everything that people send to me, and I've gotten questions over the years, all kinds of stuff about all sorts of things about Japan. And so, like, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'm not super busy, and I can usually get back to you pretty quickly. And like, it could just save you some hassle and some time, and
Yeah.
make
So
your trip more enjoyable. Whether you're going to live here or just visit. Like,
send those
send me a
Japan
message.
questions. Send those Japan
Yeah,
questions to Andrew. He'll
I'll
hook you up with answers.
I'll answer them, or I'll find somebody that can answer them.
Nice. Yeah, true. Because sometimes people send you some doozies, right? Where you're like, I have no
Yeah,
idea.
I'm like, oh, I have no idea. Kevin, you can have this one.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Andrew. Awesome. So check out Higgins in Japan on Facebook. Go to YouTube and just type in Higgins in Japan. You'll find him
Yeah.
there. And what are you on Twitter? What's your Twitter?
It's Higgins82 on Twitter.
Higgins 82.
So that's either my age or when I was born.
Oh, I think it has more to do with your age, sir. Definitely. All right. Well, Andrew, thank you for joining us for the,
Yeah.
I don't know, 10th, 15th, 20th time on the Just Japan podcast.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on again. It was good times.
Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. And Jim,
Yes.
I know you're probably not listening right now, but thank you for joining us as well.
Yes, wherever he is now.
Wherever he is. Teaching the Englishies.
All right, I want to thank Jim and Andrew for taking the time to stop by the Just Japan podcast. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about the things you should not be doing in Japan. Of course, you can find all of Jim's stuff over at mullysplace.com. And for Andrew, go to YouTube and just type in Higgins in Japan. You'll find all that stuff. That is good Higgins, whatever. Okay, cool. So guys, thank you. I really appreciate that. Now, of course, you can always find the Just Japan podcast all over the place. We are on, I'm over on Twitter at JLandKev, on Instagram at JLandKev. Of course, the home base of the podcast is justjapanstuff.com. Very active site. That's where the show notes are. That's where all the links we talk about tonight are over there at justjapanstuff.com. Yeah, so aside from that, gosh, what do we got going on? A lot of things. Things are getting warmer now. The weather's getting warmer. Summer is freaking almost here. Wow, it's getting hot out during the daytime, which means the wildlife scene is getting a little more active. And I'm trying to take my wildlife photography to a new level. So please, if you enjoy nature and you want to look at a different aspect of life in Japan, go check out my wildlife photography Facebook pages. Go check out Bugs of Asia and Birds of Kansai. Links are in the show notes at justjapanstuff.com. Go check them out. Go like those pages. Share them around. I would really, really appreciate it. Yeah, so I've got, some of you might be saying, what the heck happened to this I Love Japan project? Well, quite a few people out there have submitted short audio clips to me at justjapanpodcast@gmail.com. But I haven't gotten around to making it yet, and I got to do that. I got to get off my keister and put this together. So several people have sent me little audio clips saying, telling you guys why they love Japan. And they sent them to me in audio format at justjapanpodcast@gmail.com. And I'm going to be putting those together into a short kind of bonus podcast. That's going to happen because a lot of awesome people sent me clips. But I guess since it hasn't happened yet, for all of you out there listening right now, if you want to jump on board and get involved in the project, maybe it's the first time you've heard about this, maybe you thought that the deadline had come and gone and you didn't have a chance, there's still a chance, guys. So if you love Japan, you're interested in Japan, you've been here before, you haven't been here before, maybe you've been here and you love the history, the culture, the temples, the scenery, the mountains. Maybe you haven't been here and you love the anime, the manga, the kawaii culture, whatever it may be. If you love Japan, make a little audio recording, on a microphone, on your computer, on your smartphone. Just, if you have an iPhone, you've got voice recorder, just use that. That works fine and dandy. Just, a minute or two, explain to us, me, the host of the Just Japan podcast and the Just Japan podcast listeners, why you love Japan. And then just email me that audio clip at justjapanpodcast@gmail.com. Do it. And it's a great community thing. We can be all together sharing the reasons why we love Japan. Well, folks out there, that just about does it for another episode of the podcast. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to download the podcast, to listen to it, to share it with your friends, your family, your university buddies, your high school buddies, your junior high school buddies, your work colleagues, friends at the retirement home, wherever it may be. My name is Kevin O'Shea. I'm a Canadian who lives in Kobe, Japan. I'm making this podcast for you guys. I love making the podcast. I love the fact that you guys listen to the podcast. And the podcast is going to be continuing on. So, So thanks again, all of you. You're awesome. And that about does it for another week. So wherever you are in the world, I'll be talking to you. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, and I'll be talking to you really soon. I just got really kind of boggled up on that, the outro that I normally do, because as I'm standing here talking, an old man just shot me the stink eye as he walked past me. So there you go. So that guy, hope he's not healthy, shooting me the stink eye, but I hope you guys are healthy. All right, guys, that's it for another week in Japan. Talking to you next week. Take care and see you soon. Well, not see ya, but I'll be talking to you.
If you got a minute to spare, don't go anywhere, stay right there, 'cause Kevin is about to speak. Stay in peace on the street, what a man, you can